And the one pattern I can tell you above anything else is most businesses fail because they fail to anticipate what's coming. Write that down. Write down, anticipation is the ultimate power. If you fail to anticipate, no matter how smart you are, you're going to end up reacting and your business will pay the price. And the price in the sport we're in is death of the business, just like a gladiator. But the real secret is whether you suffer or whether you succeed is not going to be based on the season. Some people freeze to death in the middle of the winter. Other people ski and snowboard. It really comes down to what are you going to do?
I think it's really critical that you understand that everybody wants to grow their business, and we all go through different phases, right? Just like human beings go through phases. You know, you give birth to your business and you're an infant, and an infant is a run for survival, and cash flow problems are a natural process in most cases, and you're running. Hopefully you get to a teenager where now cash flow is not a problem, you're growing like crazy, and then you have a new problem. You don't have systems in place. And maybe you get to young adult where you have to decide what you're not going to do. Eventually, hopefully get to prime where you're growing your business revenues and you're growing your profits and you got a professional organization, you're not doing it. Because as long as you're doing it, really you don't have a business. What you have is you're self-employed. There's nothing wrong with being self-employed. But whenever you meet someone who's in business is stressed, they're always a business operator. And my focus is to become a business owner.
The first key to getting to that target, if we're going to grab hold of our energy and we're going to race towards this target, is you have to do step number one. Step one in a business is you got to know where you really are. You got to know where you really are, and you got to build what I call a business map. Now, what do I mean by a business map? Well, think of it this way. How many of you in this room have a 5-year business plan right now for your company? 5-year business plan, raise your hand. Now, a group of 9,000 people, I'm seeing maybe a dozen hands. The reason you're seeing a dozen hands is because even if you have to do a 5-year plan, it's bullshit. And I'm not being disrespectful. It's bullshit. Why is it bullshit? Everyone tell me. Why is a 5-year business plan in the world we live in today total bullshit? Why? Because the world is changing so fast, you have no clue what's going to be here in 5 years. You're kidding yourself. So what do? Throw up your hands and just hope it works out well? That's a disaster too. What you need is a business map. A business map means you understand the territory. You understand what's happening, where it's happening, so as you're moving along, you can adjust with that map to get where you want to go as the environment changes. The way you frame what business you're in to yourself is the single biggest limit in your business, and I promise you it's limiting who you do business with as well.
You realize that the chokehold in the growth of your business is always the leader. And it's your skills and it's your psychology. And I found it's 80% psychology and 20% skills. You gotta have the marketing skills. You gotta be able to lead. You gotta be able to recruit. You gotta do all those things. But really, most importantly, you gotta get it through what I call the threshold of control. And this, to me, is the secret to really succeeding in business. And it's pretty simplistic. How many of you snowboard or ski? Anybody out there snowboard or ski? To give you a sense? So most people are terminally intermediate when they get into that sport, right? You know, they really never get that good. They're not really a belonger. They're kind of in the middle, and they never get much better. And I think the reason is they never push themselves beyond what they can handle, right? You're used to greens or blues, and you find yourself on a double black, and what happens? Everything inside you freaks out because you're past what I call the threshold of control, your comfort zone. And you look down, you go, I could die doing this. So now you have two choices. Either most people slam themselves on the ground, hang on for dear life, and try not to skid off the cliff, and at best what you do is survive, or a few people let go of their fear, no matter how scary it is, and goes, I gotta go down this thing, and there's no other choice, and they focus on where they wanna go instead of what they're afraid of. And they find a way to carve. And once you carve a few of them, that double black is your bitch, right? You don't have to worry about that anymore, right? And so that's what happens in business. So for me, I can remember going and starting my first business in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I got on a radio show, and this person, it was a shock jock radio show, and I didn't know it, and they started attacking me and saying I'm a liar and a charlatan, you can't do these things. And this therapist called me up and said, you know what, I've dealt with people forever. You can't wipe out a phobia in less than an hour. It can take 7 years. I have a patient right now I've worked with for 7 years, and I've been able to solve this. And I said, great, bring that patient tonight. I'm doing a free guest event at the Holiday Inn. and I'll take care of that. It should take me 10 or 15 minutes. Right? And
you
so
do it?
I did it, and I was able to do it. I wrapped a snake around this woman. She had a snake phobia. Phobia is an uncontrollable response. So because of that, I had people coming to these guest events like crazy, and I thought I hit the home run, right? And I did this big guest event. There was like 1,000 people there, which for me would be like, I don't know, 100,000 people in an event right now. And after I was done, a bunch of people signed up for my seminar because I did a free value add event, and then I would invite them to come spend 3 days with me. And this man walks up to me, and he's from immigration. He goes, "A great seminar." He goes, "I'd like to see your work permit." And I said, "What's a work permit?" Right? You know, when you're in beginning business, you don't know these things, right? He goes, "Well, to work in this country, you need a work permit." And he said, "I'll tell you what, I got to see you tomorrow at 5:30. I goes, "Well, my seminar starts at 7. He goes, you'll be fine, just you got to be there at 5:30. He said, "I'm not asking, it's a requirement." So I show up at 5:30, I wait for half an hour, now I'm starting to stress. And finally I sit down with a guy and he says, "You're taking away Canadian jobs." I said, "How many Canadian firewalkers are there?" Come on, that's what I was doing those days. And he said, "No, you teach NLP skills, neuro-linguistic programming, and these people have classes of 20 people and you got a class of 500. And so they say you're taking jobs, so your event is over." So what do you mean your event's over? He goes, "If you walk on that stage tonight, we will handcuff you and deport you." This is what I call a threshold of control. Right? He says, "You're going to have to give the money back." I said, "I can't give the money back. I spent all the money to put on the seminar. I wasn't a good businessman. I just wanted to help everybody, right? So I spent all the money to do it." And he goes, "You have no money? Well, you're going to have to deal with that." So I walked out of the building. I have 40 minutes. People are going to arrive. I can't go on stage. What do you do? I told my 3 staff members, 2 of which were volunteers, what happened. They're like, "Oh." And I said, "Here's what we're doing. I'm doing this seminar." And they said, "You're going to go to jail." I said, "I'm not going to jail." I said, "How close is the border?" True story. And they said, "Well, there's a place called Bellingham, Washington. It's about 1 hour and 40 minutes. I said, "Rent me 6 buses and I'll meet the people up front before they go in the hotel." So it's not a problem. I met everybody up front. They said, "This is a traveling seminar." It's a surprise, right?
We're going to Bellingham.
We're going to America. And it was a 3-day seminar. We had to go and come back each day and night for 3 days in a row. I got all but 4 people to agree to do it. And then I got to Bellingham, Washington at the Holiday Inn there, and there was like a bar mitzvah or a wedding or some stuff next door, and it was so loud you couldn't hear anybody. And so I said, "Just lie on the floor, close your eyes, I'm gonna hypnotize you into this shit," right? You know? But so what happened was you learn how to get through that, right? And we learn how to be resourceful. When you realize that your problem is not a lack of resources, it's not a lack of money or technology or contacts, it's not. It's your psychology. Because the ultimate resource is resourcefulness. And human emotion, that's what starts wars, that's what makes a business begin, that's how you have children, that's how we end wars, it's all emotion. And so what I really learned to do is how to manage my emotions. So, you know, once you solve that one, the next one shows up. I started a franchise, and a couple franchisees were really upset when one of the people representing on my side said they didn't make things clear to them, and you know, it's all bullshit, but it cost me $5 million in 4 years. I thought, the first one was like a $50,000 challenge. Now I got a $5 million challenge. And it took all the money I'd saved in my entire career to pay that off, and I was starting over again. And then I grew from that. And then I finally got, I had a partner in business, and long story short, they had a business that was losing $1 million a day, and he turned it around and making $1.8 billion in EBITDA. He offered me his partner, and I signed a document saying we're all joint and several. There was $40 million in debt. I figured I had $10 million of the debt to have $1.8 billion in infrastructure. And it turned out my partners, 2 of them were broke. They weren't billionaires. They had lost their money. And the other one was the son of a billionaire, and his dad had given him nothing, had $5 million to his name. So I was on the hook shortly after for $120 million when they didn't have $120 million. I figured out how to deal with that. By doing that, I eventually took my companies to this year will surpass $6 billion in 33 companies, because I made it through the threshold of control. So I want you to know, when you see these big numbers by any entrepreneur, they all started with blocking and tackling, and they all started with how do I get both the skill and more importantly the psychology. You can get the skill if you can get that part of you that just doesn't die, the part of you that finds the way to add more value than anybody else so you can keep growing. Fijians are wealthy. Whenever I bring friends there, we have 325 acres and 3 miles of ocean frontage. It's unbelievable. But you go up these 2 villages, and my friends initially will say, "Well, look at their houses, look at their homes, and they don't really have electricity, they don't have this," but they don't feel poor. It's your identity. The way you define the wealth determines whether you're wealthy or not.
So are there enough things for you, knowing that 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, that you could get yourself to really feel grateful, yes or no? Yes. How much of your life do you get benefits from today that you never had to create? Think about it. Like I said, the roads you ride on, the library, the books you didn't have to write, right? The internet that you can access in seconds and get answers to just about anything. The people in your life that you didn't have to raise, but are there for you. Think about all the different aspects of your life. If you want to be wealthy, all you have to do is associate. So before we do the financial part, because financial independence is different than wealth. Wealth is that state of mind. Financial independence is being in that position where you don't ever have to work again. That if you work, you do it because you really want to. Now, I'll give you a clue. If you get financially independent and you don't work, you'll be miserable. I can't tell you how many friends I have that sold their company, made $50 million. One man made almost $1 billion and was really excited for a while. But after a while, it was like bored. His vehicle of his business gave him a sense of contribution, and he was always growing, figuring out how to solve problems, and he had all the people he was connected to in the business, all the employees and friends and associates, and he was significant because he was doing something worthwhile. And he had tremendous certainty because he knew the business, and also variety because it's always changing. And now he had this money. So the real secret is to be financially free, to be financially independent. You want to get where you never have to work again, but you do. Because you want to. That's when life gets very cool. When you don't have to work, but you want to, you often work harder. I enjoy my life today. I don't have to work. That's one of the most killer experiences in life. So I want to tell you, I'm not just saying this as some little positive thinking technique. I'm telling you, this is the secret, the real secret, to shift it inside of you and to add the real value. Most people are trying to pursue something in the future that they already have.